Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Tuesday, so it is Sam Kieth Day. We are looking at the next issue of his The MAXX series. This is issue number 6 from 1993. Not much to say about the cover other than it's a really cool image from Sam Kieth. Once again, some great Sam Kieth textures. I like kind of the orientation of all the bubbles because clearly they're underwater, right? Fighting... I mean, from the cover, you could assume maybe it's just a shark, but as we find out inside, it's actually Mako, who's a shark man character from the Savage Dragon series, and we actually get a bit of a cameo from the Savage Dragon as well in this issue, so tying the MAXX into the greater kind of image universe. What I was saying, sorry, about the bubbles is the way they kind of twist and turn and suggest direction and movement, I think is great and done really well. Just a super fun, eye-catching cover. Kind of giving us a preview of what we're going to see on the inside, which is basically most of the issue, at least from the MAXX's view, is a slugfest between him and Mako. And the B story is kind of delving more into Julie herself and her psychology and the different aspects of her personality, right? Because this is a weird book and it gets, you know, into the inner space of the characters and stuff in a kind of weird, wacky visual way. And visually, this is a really cool issue overall. And there's a lot to talk about in the art and some of the specificities of who's doing what and some of the different techniques used as well. So let's crack her open, have a look inside. So story and art, Sam Kieth, swell dialogue as it's called. Bill Messner-Loebs finishes. Jim Sinclair probably helping with some inking and some background and stuff. I've talked about him a little bit before in past MAXX reviews. Lettering Mike Heisler and colors Steve Oliff in all the optics. So it starts off with, you know, a classic kind of Sam Kieth page with the very circular composition that he uses a lot, right? He tries to avoid generally the kind of, you know, rectangular or square panel layout. But basically we have Julie at the beach with some of her girlfriends and just talking about the MAXX and life and stuff. And there's, I mean, maybe this right here is kind of slightly inane chatter just to get us into the story in the context of what's going on with her. And then we turn the page and we've got these two little fellows once again observing the MAXX's domain, basically. This guy here clearly is a representation of Calvin and Hobbes, right? And I like Sam Kieth when he does this kind of weird kind of layout, panel layout rather, for a big splash like this. He does it for smaller panels as well. It's kind of just a abstract geometric shape that he uses instead of just a rectangular, straight up rectangular kind of more conventional panel, and I think it looks really cool. He's given us the open border a la McFarlane, which I saw in one of the reviews a few days ago on the last McFarlane review. So, you know, the image guys are all looking at each other and you know, taking little bits here and there. Sam Kieth has been quoted as saying is during this period when he was at Image and stuff and the late Marvel stuff at Marvel Comics Presents, he was kind of trying to draw in the style of these other guys, and he didn't really feel like himself, and his later style or more modern style is quite a bit different to a certain extent than what we were seeing back then with these and the Marvel Comics Presents stuff. But to me, you know, knowing that, I didn't know that back then, so I just took his style as that's how this guy draws, and I saw it as very different from what the other Image guys were doing. So it was like a very different artist, you know, with an eclectic style, trying to do the Image style. So no matter what, it was never going to look like an Image style, and that's what I appreciate about Sam Kieth and his art. It's very different from, you know, I like the Image stuff and specific Image guys, but his stuff is just not conventional, and I think that's great. Just again, look at the layouts here with the introduction of the Savage Dragon in the issue, which is great. This cool use of the shadow here, you know, he's such a kind of, you know, jutting strong figure that his shadow, you know, silhouettes the two characters completely. Now I will say a little underwhelming as far as, you know, the proportions of the dragon by Sam Kieth. Could have gone a little bit bigger. Here I would argue these are some of those panels I've talked about in past reviews of the MAXX that I think are probably mostly done by Sinclair, because the line quality changes and there's no more hatching and stuff. I really feel like these are done by his assistant. And I'll try to point those out as well. There's never too much, but there's always a little bit per issue, I guess. Even this here, I question whether or not Sam Keith drew it, even though it's a pretty integral part of the image here. I mean, maybe he did and he just didn't add his final kind of bit of rough hatching and stuff, but I do feel like another artist drew this bit here. So Mako is introduced here in a very, I don't want to say contrived way, but it's just for some reason, there's the place, and that's all we need, right? He just breaks into the window of Julie's apartment and attacks the MAXX here. Some of these bits I got to read because they're funny. The MAXX, interpreting the world. Sometimes, he's not really in his right mind. So sometimes he thinks he's in that, make-believe world of the Australian outback with monsters and creatures and stuff. So a land shark. This stuff always happens just after I glue my hands shut over my claws. I hate that. So it just so happens that for some reason, he's glued his claws down. As he says, I glue my hands shut over my claws. So he can't use his claws to defend himself in this story. So I guess that's the conceit of the whole slugfest. The MAXX could take care of Mako really quickly if he just had his middle finger claws, right? Love this shot of Mako here. Looks awesome. The way he's interpreted, when Erik Larsen draws him, this is like kind of clean cybernetic tubing, I guess is how I describe it. The way he does it here is a little more dirty and a little more organic. We understand it's technology. It's a little more Geiger, I guess. Maybe pulling some of the stuff he did from Aliens and throwing it here. Aliens Earth Wars, the series he did. I have a review of that. Check it out on my channel. So intercutting. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just remind everyone of Sam Keith's love of the circular composition. He uses it so much, and I think it's cool, and it's almost like one of his defining kind of characteristics. And I know others have done it, but I really associate it with him because he did it so much. We're back to the B story, or I guess in this case, in this book, it starts with this. So the A story with Julie and her friends at the beach, and they're just, I guess it's a way for, there's a bit of pontification going on. I guess it's a way for Sam Keith to maybe, or Bill Messner-Loebs to get some of their societal points across or something, things they believe, injustices that they see, through the character of Julie. Love this bit where like the art I've talked about with Sam Keith, sometimes it's very illustrated, very detailed, and sometimes it's just very cartoony or simple, and kind of the art level changes and drops in and out and gets better and gets a bit cartoonier. And these are good examples of that, these panels here. I really like this one because he really exaggerates the building as well, that starts to warp and twist. So very cartoony, and specifically this panel I think is really cool. All these shots of Mako kind of coming into the panel with his sharp teeth and hands, and there's always a bit of speed lines and movement. It always looks like he's going really fast and he's raging. So I think Sam Keith does that very well here. Again, just sometimes it almost gets abstract, but the Sienkiewicz kind of inking here on the arm, so it gets a little looser, I guess, because it's moving. Still got some speed lines. Doesn't quite get the MAXX's head and punches through the wall here. That's pretty cool. And just the way the panel is finished off here, open on the side, like all this layout stuff is really cool and really different. Leaving it open here and kind of the top here, connecting just finishing that off in a very kind of strange, abstract, negative space way. I think, I haven't seen a lot of stuff like this, and I think it works well here anyways. Always thought this kind of quick, cool shot of the MAXX running was nice, because it always seems like the MAXX is as wide as he is tall, I guess, is how I'd put it. He's kind of, he's very round in shape, but overall he's kind of just a big block, like a square. So again, intercutting with Julie, moving back to the story here. Something like this, I wonder if maybe it's not all Sam Keith, or just a really quick sketch that Jim Sinclair, the assistant, or the ink assistant, finished off there. These feet don't seem quite Sam Keithish to me, where this one does. So there's little things here and there, but I mean, I think it's done in a way where it's interspersed and you don't notice it that much, and it's not too jarring between the two styles where it doesn't work. So okay, a little bit of the A story again, Julie getting back home. Oh no, they've had, okay, so the car stopped, and they're calling the auto club, as she calls it here, which I guess is like CA. That's what we have here in Canada. I don't know if that's in the States as well. Great little curve to the panel here, even when, he does actually, one of the rare instances where he's got square and kind of rectangular panels, he has to quickly bring it back to that. And obviously with the action shots, you know, this being maybe more mundane, it makes sense to have the kind of structured stuff in here. The movement, the dynamism and stuff makes sense to kind of play around with the panel shape. Very cool. I think most of this is definitely Sam Keith. This kind of is you know, a zoom out of the cover, basically. You know, if we look at it real quick, right, what we got here with his arm in his mouth, that's basically, you know, maybe the moment right before or something, still using that bubble motif to imply the movement, which I think is great. So that's definitely the moment from the cover, right? I guess maybe he drew the comic and he really enjoyed this moment, decided, hey, you know, close up of that'd make a cool cover, and he was right. So here's where I was talking earlier about the different kind of techniques that are being used. So all throughout up to this point, it's been mostly pen and ink. It's been all pen and ink, actually. And then we get to this still ink, right? But watercolor ink, and like there's some brushwork and stuff, but there's also what's the word I'm looking for? Washes, different washes with that black ink. So some lighter washes, some gray washes. There's a bit of brown and stuff. So I'm wondering if there's, you know, paint. I can't nail everything down. There might even be like some colored pencil in there. But you know, cool stuff, because from the image guys, obviously we weren't getting any of this stuff in this experimentation, all the other kind of more standard image guys. So Sam Keith was the one to kind of do this stuff. So this is a great painting, has kind of a Frank Frazetta vibe as well, right? And then he does it a little bit here with the vegetation, and then kind of, you know, just does kind of kitty cartoon, almost like Peanuts versions of Julie and the MAXX here, while still using that painterly kind of style for the background. You know, you have Dirk Julie here, and apparently her leopard is dead. So again, there's, with the Julie story, we're introducing kind of different aspects of her personality. Her maybe more bubbly, kid-like personality, which we'll see a bit later, and her kind of dark side that's been through, you know, bad situations, possibly traumatized. Here's some more stuff where I think we're seeing a lot more Sinclair. Maybe, you know, I could almost believe that maybe most of this page is him. You know, there's some more complicated stuff to draw, and Sam Keith just wasn't into drawing a garbage truck or whatever. I could be wrong. You know, again, I look at this truck and I think maybe assistant drew that. This bit of the truck here too. This, definitely Sam Keith. We're back to thick lines and hatching. Cool shot of our I guess, villain here, or opponent. I always like this one here. But all these characters in the back, like, I think most of this could possibly very well be Jim Sinclair trying to approximate kind of Sam Keith proportions and stuff, but the finish and you know, the simple line work, which is good and effective and works and still kind of blends pretty well with Sam Keith. It's just the textures, the Sam Keith textures kind of drop off. And these, you know, this is not a Sam Keith face at all. This character here, like that's clearly not Sam Keith. I think he maybe even this panel here. I just like that funny just insert of just a little bit of Mako's face there. I gotta mention the lettering too. I think a lot of it, you know, not all of it, but some of it, like this and this, I feel is probably done by Sam Keith himself. So again, I mean, most of the art in here is a slugfest, as I mentioned, between, you know, the MAXX and Mako. So you're starting to see a bit of a repetition here of the motif of, you know, just the head and the MAXX kind of running away and fighting for his life here. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the part where, yeah. So for some reason, there's some solvent or something in this area that they've crashed into. So, hey, wait a sec, the solvent must have dissolved the glue. My claws are free. And, you know, just a really whacked out version of the MAXX here. Pretty sure this is Sam Keith. Bringing the telephone wires, I guess, that were hanging all around in this area here. You know, it's not just like when he was doing Wolverine, it was the costume ripping and the threads were kind of phone wire or phone cord from the 80s and 90s, when telephones still had cords, right? But now it's literal cords. He's just drawing it in there because I feel like he just likes drawing those shapes. Brings them into the foreground here, applies some kind of extreme perspective. The MAXX in all his glory, his huge feet, And, you know, at this point, the emphasis is the claw, or sorry, the emphasis should be on the claws. So he almost just completely eliminates the actual hand and just turns it all into, you know, claw. It's just pure claw. This little bit here confused me. I'm not sure what that's therefore meant to represent. Maybe it's a bit of debris like I see here. But overall, and the face, I gotta say the face is twisted and distorted on purpose, I assume. So just a cool image of the MAXX tilted, and again, our circular composition. Look how rough, you know, the lines and stuff and what he's doing for the contours, and it totally works because it fits with his art style. I think it looks great. And basically at this point, everything just very convenient. Ends in a huge explosion. They don't find Mako. They do find the MAXX, and the dragon looks at him and he just says, that's just some poor derelict. If you've ever seen, what is that movie? Blue Steel, Ben Stiller, not Highlander, Zoolander. Great comedy. Part 2, not so much, but that original Zoolander, great comedy movie. Check it out if you haven't seen it. So we get some more here, kind of monochrome coloring on the art, and we're dropping the black, so we're all, whatever this is considered as a color, brown, maroon, I'm not quite sure, but all different tones of it. So even what regularly or usually would seem like it would be black is just a really dark maroon and not a pure black. So another kind of visual look there. As I said, we see the kind of Peanuts young Julie version of Julie here, right? Kind of looks like she would almost jump right out of Charlie Brown strip. And once again, we see the kind of dark version of her, very Frazetta once again with the female form and the finish here. This is just a great, I don't know if you call it, I guess you would call this a painting, right? I'm not quite sure of all the medium that we used in there. Some ink for sure, some paint, some watercolor, but to go in and name every kind of tool that was used, I couldn't say for sure. I still think there might be a bit of colored pencil in there, but definitely looks great, you know. If there is out there, I know he uses it in some comics, like I said, sporadically within the series or whatever, like he does here in the MAXX. If ever Sam Kieth has done some sort of series of fully painted art, I would love to hear about it. I don't know if it exists. If you do know, leave something in the comments, because I don't specifically know about it. I've seen other series. He's got a Batman series and Batman Lobo series where you get some painted panels and painted images and stuff. But if he's ever done a fully painted comic, man, I'd really like to know about it. All right, so Julie's life gets sorted, the car gets towed, and we just kind of finish up with a cool shot reminding us a little bit of the beginning and the MAXX's box in the back of this alley here. A lot of different kind of mediums and stuff going on here. I feel like this is like a blown up photocopy of something, and that's why we're getting all this kind of airiness in the detail. Not quite sure how this was done, but, you know, I feel like maybe this is just ink and a bit of a photocopy here in the front that distorts the shadows a little bit. Don't know for sure, but again, as you've seen from this issue, Sam Kieth is one of those guys who just will use different mediums and different tools and different kinds of paints and inks in his comics. If you don't know this as well, like, I don't know if there's examples in here of completely black pages, like the background is black and stuff. I mean, kind of here. But I've seen and I've heard from an interview with Kelly Jones, that he would actually use, you know, for black spaces, like a rectangular, if this was all black, like he would lay down some duct tape sometimes on the actual page. And that works, right, for the printing process and stuff. Once you adjust contrast and levels and stuff, you're not going to notice at all that was duct tape. You're just going to see a black space, which is very interesting, I got to say. He's willing to use so many different tools and things just to get the result that he wants. So respectable. And again, he's very experimental. He always had a very, very massive letter page section and lots of fan art. I remember seeing this. I always thought that was a pretty good image there. I thought the guy was pretty ballsy to try stippling, right? This technique where you use dots to create, like, where you would usually use hatching or feathering, you just use dots to go from dark to light. Very time consuming. I think he did a pretty good job here overall. It looks cool. and lots of image ads. And I always appreciate, maybe not the first issue of the MAXX, but most Image Comics during this period saved all the ads for the end, which was nice because it didn't interrupt the story. So the MAXX is doing that as well. That was my review for the MAXX number 6, guys. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything I may have mentioned, answers to my questions? Let me know in the comments. If you're not subscribed and you like my videos and you enjoy them, please subscribe. It really helps out the channel, helps us grow. Just hope everyone out there has an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13. 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.